It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Woo! Hey, good morning, y'all. Welcome to Daddy's Right Here Live. I'm your host, Sabir Aline. I am so glad. I am ecstatic about being back. I really am. It's been a minute. I still am incapacitated to some degree with this fractured ankle. For those of you who don't know, about I guess this is what 10 weeks post surgery. Yeah, so about 10 weeks ago, I fractured my ankle, and it has been quite a climb. Needless to say, to get from a point of being totally incapacitated to a point of being partially incapacitated. But nevertheless, there has been a lot of lessons learned through uh, through all of this. And when I say lessons learned, I mean about myself, trying to do things on my own. I've always been that way throughout my life, getting it done. And that's part of the conditioning for males. But for me, being on my own at a young age by choice forced me into the mindset of uh, not asking for help, taking whatever it is that I needed to have in order for me to survive. And if I didn't have, just dealing with the fact that I just didn't have. So through this process here, I've learned to ask for help. And even at my job, right? You know, I have a lot of responsibilities, but I also have a large team of people who are willing to assist. And I'm reminded often by my boss, you anything you need? Listen, ask such and such. You get David. And so I've learned a lot through that process. It's been very humbling for me because I haven't been able to, get out and about and be at the beach and do some of the things that I had become accustomed to doing. Right. So I've had to sit still. But sitting still has afforded me, some time to think, to process things, to reflect, and to look at things from a different perspective and realizing how dependent uh, we are, and rightfully so, but of our limbs, our body parts, and this foot. Uh, Even as I sit here now, I can't just jump up and go run up the steps because I have this boot on. But wanting to take better care of myself, right? In many capacities, not just with this foot, right? But just my whole health. I'm a cigar smoker. I inhale. That's the difference with me between me and a lot of other cigar smokers because I'm a former cigarette smoker. So I inhale, and just sitting around all the time and smoking, I began to, excuse me, y'all. I began to feel the effects because I'm not doing any cardio work. So if I'm not doing any cardio work, that means I'm relying upon the naturalness of my breathing and just whatever walking or movements that I do that keep my cardio up. But this was a process, man, where I learned a lot about like, you really need to take better care of yourself. And my consideration to stop smoking cigars it's resurfaced again. And I really enjoy cigars, but I enjoy living as well. I had an uncle who just turned 80 and celebrated that with him. And man, I just turned 59 a couple of weeks ago, like last week actually. So that means I'm closer to 60. Yeah, I'm moving closer to 60. And I like to see 80 like my uncle, if that's what the creator so desires for me. He's the best of all planners. So I'm not really sure. But I'd be glad to be able to get back on the treadmill and do some walking again. I'd be glad to be walking back on the beach again, feeling the hot sand under my feet. I think it would feel even more scintillating because it has been so long, and because I have such a greater appreciation for these 2 feet that I have. Yeah. So today, I want to go. I was going back and forth really as to what it is that I wanted to talk about today. There's so many things going on in my life, and I really wasn't sure where I wanted to go. I said, yeah, I'm gonna talk about dreams because we had this whole thing about dreams and what dreams mean, and I'm a Freudian. I love Sigmund Freud, the whole psychoanalysis thing, man. That's my twist, right? The psychotherapeutic relationship and stuff, going into the mind, looking at the psyche, and dreams are really deep. It's a whole list of interpretations, man, and interpreters of dreams. And one day I'm gonna go into that, but I settled into a subject matter about dependency. And for me, I've often had the conversation with you guys, and it was one of my own self-discoveries during the course of one of my shows that I'm codependent. Yeah. And I'm working on making adjustments in my life and remind myself codependent no more. No more. And sticking to it. But I have to first acknowledge the fact that I am codependent. So a codependent person needs to stay aware of some of the aspects of their relationships, because if not, we can get drugged back in to somebody else's web of insanity, trying to be the savior of somebody's life. And at the end of the day, they're not trying to change anything about their lives. The way you meet a person is who they're going to be for the duration. Believe that. Believe that. Believe that if you don't like certain aspects of a person in the relationship, you need to learn to like them or get out. Learn to like them or get out, because you're not going to change them. They're not going to change. They're not going to change. Over time, there are some things that people stop doing on their own, all in the name of getting along. But if a person ain't cut like that, if they ain't come from that cloth, they will continue to be like that. They won't change. You'll stay angry, but you'll still be in that relationship, and it'll be the most stressful aspect of your life, other than your job and your children. Yes. So there's an article that I found called, let me see here. The site is bustle.com, bustle.com, bustle.com. And the topic I want to talk about today, which is the title of this article, how to tell if you're in love or just emotionally dependent on your partner. Yeah. We keep throwing this whole love thing around. And I keep saying over and over and over again, I'm in agreement with Tina Turner. What's love got to do with this? Because oftentimes love has nothing to do with anything, but we call it love. We call it love because it appeases the circumstance, either for the individual or for yourself. And you call it love. So it begins here with, it's hard to truly define what being in love feels like because it's different for everyone. Because of that, people can confuse being in love for something else like lust or compatibility. But are you mistaking attachment for love? According to experts, it's important to know for sure if you want to prevent yourself from falling into negative relationship patterns. Yeah, and many of us have already fallen into negative relationship patterns. Whether you want to be honest about it or not is entirely up to you. It's entirely up to you. And that's why in my film, Why Are You My Ex Too, I talk about that how we're too far gone, that we have been so ill-conditioned in our lives at this point, for those of us who are adults, especially those who are around my era, right? We're too far gone. We've been conditioned already to be in these negative patterns. Well, it's important at this time that we begin to share with others, to give others the right information, such as things like this, so they don't fall prey to those negative patterns. Back to the article. Couples who are emotionally dependent on their partner and aren't in love tend to be in love with the idea of being in love. These are the type of partners who tend to catastrophize every detail. For instance, when it comes to texting, they might analyze the punctuation marks and the type of words that are used. They may wonder about the response time and why it took longer than usual. In short, they'll look for meaning in things that don't matter. Let you marinate on that one for a minute while I take a sip of coffee, because I know you need to marinate on it, because I know right now your mind is running because it sounds familiar. So let's talk about it. How many times have you sent a text message to somebody and you get a response back that goes way over your head? You sit there and you wonder, where did that come from? What? And you respond back like, okay, so what's up with that? And then they begin to tell you how about, well, you usually put ellipses after your words, and this time you just put a period. Because I'm known for that. I'm known for putting ellipses after my statements, because for me it's a continuation of a conversation. It's a conversation. It's not just a sentence. It's not just a statement. For me, it's like a conversation. There's more. So a lot of times I'll put the ellipses, which means like we flowing now with some dialogue, right? When it's a necessity for a period, then a period is there. When you have to just say something cut and dry. But I've had that happen so many times, man. We're like, okay, well, you usually send emojis with your responses, and this time you didn't You didn't send any. You all right? Yeah, I'm fine. Oh, okay. Or you'll say love you, but you'll use LUV and the capital U afterwards, love you, and you'll get questioned on that. Well, you usually say, I love you, LOVE, and spell out you, YOU. What's the love you for? You in a rush? What are you doing? Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, that's when you start seeing some things. And that's a key indicator for somebody who is emotionally dependent upon you. Because everything you say is analyzed. It says it right here. They'll look for meaning in things that don't really matter. And it's not to say that saying, I love you or love you doesn't matter. Those are very significant words. It's saying that no matter how I wrote it, it still means the same thing. I'm still telling you the same thing. Why do I have to explain to you just that? Why am I sitting here explaining to you that love you and I love you in whatever way they are said, even if it's just a smiley face, even if it's just a heart, regardless of the color of the heart, that is still symbolic of the same thing. Why do I have to do that? Most of the time, the person can't answer that question. Most of the times, they'll play it down and act like, oh, no, well, you just getting too deep with it. I just asked a question. No, you didn't just ask a question. You implied something there. You insinuated something there. Your statement is accusatory. It's hurtful, needless to say. And that's the part that's really important for the other person to understand, that when you imply those things upon people who have no ill intent towards you, but that's what you do to them, it's hurtful. Because here I am sitting here defending something that you have internalized, right? Because of your own conditioning, because of that negative relationship pattern that you still have within your mind. So I have to be held accountable for things that you don't have resolved within you. So now here I am, right? Validating my love. When a minute ago, you already had it in your mind that I did. Didn't you? Did you? Well, I thought you did at least. But it says it very clearly. These are the type of partners who tend to catastrophize every detail. Every detail. I've been in that kind of relationship. I've been in that kind of relationship. And it is so pressuring. It is so intense. It is so irritating, aggravating, frustrating, that negative pattern. That negative pattern. And for a codependent person, this is trouble. Because when you're in a relationship with the person who is emotionally dependent upon you, you find yourself drained in so many of the smallest, here it says it here, and things that don't really matter. You find yourself drained in just trying to settle down a situation that got catastrophized by that emotionally dependent person. It's draining. You get to the point where you don't even want to have a conversation. Yeah. You don't even want to have a conversation. You don't even want to talk no more. The positive energy that you had going into this thing, it just went out the door. The flow you had with the texting, it just went out the door. And it ain't even, I'm good. Well, what's wrong? Nothing. I'm just saying, we just spent so much. Well, just start over. It's not always that easy to just start all over again. When you vibe and when you feeling a good vibe, positive vibe only, when you feeling that, right? And I just shot you a text message. So, ain't nothing. Cool. What you doing today? And then they called you. And then they ask you what you're doing in that moment. And then depending on the response that you give about in that moment, the next question becomes, what are you doing today? Yeah. And then it's a rabbit hole. Everything just goes chaotic. Nothing goes right because I'll get in my feelings. I'm gonna tell you, if you're accusatory towards me, right? When we're having a conversation about something, like, yeah, you feel the need to say to me, so why you say it like that? Well, I say it like what? Well, you just act like something was wrong. No, ain't nothing wrong. If something was wrong, I would tell you. And anybody who knows me knows I'm a talker. I'm gonna express my feelings to you appropriately if something is wrong. But when you know a person, like, you shouldn't be having those kind of things. But this person who is emotionally dependent upon a relationship, who has interpreted their emotional dependency upon you as being love, because it's not love. Because you know what? Sometimes we keep people's lives afloat, right? Sometimes we keep them living. That's what emotional dependency is. You need somebody to keep you alive. You're not in love with them. You're in love with the idea. And it says it here. It says it here. Love, going to the next part of the article. Love can make you do some pretty unusual things, but it shouldn't make you feel super anxious. Instead, those who are genuinely in love, genuinely in love, enjoy being in touch and welcome all forms of communication. They don't worry about how long they should wait to respond or what words would make them seem more interesting. And it's a quote by the author of the article. No, no, this is okay. So the article is by Christine Felizard, and Christine quotes Julie Spira. And here's a quote in the article. This is what Julie says. People in love don't have to fight that hard to keep the relationship alive, she says. People who are emotionally dependent on the relationship worry about their relationship status, tend to feel insecure, and will cling on to the relationship for dear life. The fear of losing it becomes greater than the ability to just love. So that, this kind of relationship, this emotionally dependent relationship that has now been termed as being in love by that person, who has been in what has also been interpreted by the other person as them loving that person, right? See, it's confusing because sometimes dependency upon a person and love mimic similar conduct. If this person depends on you, the clinginess appears to be affection. It appears to be a bond being developed. You follow me? doing things for you to please you are a purchase of a sort. Yeah, because this is the payoff for me is that you remain with me because I need you to keep living. And that's why it says in here, holding on for dear life. This is the person who will kill themselves if you leave. Yeah. That's not love, folks. In any capacity, that's not love. But this is the kind of stuff that happens. This is also the person who will take the whole family out. I mean, kill the entire family because they are emotionally dependent upon the whole, not just the part. That's why when you see some of these murders, that these homicides that happen, and you wonder, how did that person, why did they kill the child? Why did they kill the children? Why did they kill the parents and the child, their partner? Why? These are emotionally dependent people. The idea of you leaving me is greater than the idea of you being with another person. Listen to what I'm saying to you. This person would be more willing to accept infidelity, right, than you leaving. Yeah. And I always say this, my very first paper that I did in my collegiate studies, when I first started at community college in Philadelphia, my very first paper was, why do some women remain in abusive relationships? Very first paper. I didn't write it because I wanted to learn about them. I wrote it because I wanted to learn about me. I wanted to learn about masculinity. I wanted to learn about males. Yeah. Yeah. Because the lifestyle that I was living, I was a poster child for abusive. Yelling and screaming and arguing, always angry. Yeah. But I always had somebody who professed their love for me. Yeah. And I wanted to learn those things. That helped me learn about me. Because I didn't like myself. I hated myself. And I hated aspects of myself so much so, right, that learning things such as that about me was important. And then I began to see myself in a different light. But when you have a person who is emotionally dependent, right? Because I'm gonna tell you, that's the origination for my codependency started a long time ago. Yeah, as a child. But then I also saw where I was emotionally dependent, right? Upon a lot of relationships. And not just like boyfriend and girlfriend relationships, but in a lot of relationships. And see, abandonment will do that. The feeling of abandonment, the thought of abandonment, real or perceived, will put you in an emotionally dependent circumstance where you find so many people who are in relationships even today, where they're just in a relationship with the person who can care for them. That's all. Yeah. I want to cut up. I want to act foolish anytime I want to, but I know that this person will always be there for me because I need them. And when it gets to the part of the relationship where it feels like they're moving away, and that person's emotional upheaval comes forth, and they show the devastation of what they bear inside, the catastrophic behavior, the catastrophizing behavior that it talks about in this article, right? Because they're not reacting to you and the love they have for you. They're reacting to the internal upheaval of the possibility of this relationship ending. Yeah. And they show the devastation. And again, I'll tell you, it mimics love because you see this person is like breaking down. They're telling you about how, oh, it was just so, and it reminds me of so much about how when I was growing up and what people did to me. And next thing you know, you went from being the victim to the perpetrator. Yeah, you the victim. They done acted out on one of their less endearing traits upon you, and then they flip it because inside they feel not what they did was wrong. They feel what your reaction to them was wrong. You didn't have to react to me like that. You know I got this and I got it and I'm just and you know and they break it down and you're sitting there looking like, oh my God. I'm so sorry. You're sorry for what they did. Codependent people do that well. We jump right in. Oh yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, you're right. I should have said it. Yeah, I should have kept my feelings aside. And I should have thought about it. Yes, I should have. So a codependent person and an emotionally dependent person, it's not good at all. That is a recipe, folks, for a domestic violence situation. It's a recipe for domestic violence. Because the enabler, the codependent person, right, is looking at that. This is love. It's love because the codependent person's need is to care for. The emotionally dependent person is to be cared for. But there's never any satisfaction that happens in there. It really isn't. Because no matter what you do as a codependent person for an emotionally dependent person, it doesn't matter because they're getting something else because it's not truly love. It's a need. It's a sick need. And we have to understand that. It is a sick need. Because to get that person from the point of emotionally needing that relationship to loving you as a person is difficult. It's difficult. It is. And both of them will see things from a totally different perspective. Both of them. Because the codependent person has a discussion about, you know, how much I care for you, how much I'll do for you. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to want for anything in the world. I got you. And the other person is looking at it from the perspective of, yeah, but you got me, but this is what I need from you. I just need for you to, when I'm saying something, when I'm upset, let me be upset. Let me do what I do. This is, you know, I know I sent, 22 text messages back to back because I will just, I wanted to know what it is that you were doing and how come, like when you sent the first text message this morning, right, it was short. And usually, you put emojis and all kind of other stuff with your messages. And this time you didn't do that. So that's why I was wondering what was going on. But then they're wondering what's going on has become catastrophized now because it went from you just sent a short message because you was just waking the hell up, or you were doing something else, working on something in the house, or you were watching something on television that was important, but they don't see it that way because all the attention has to be to that message that they just sent you. That's the emotional dependency. Because I just sent you a text message. And when I sent that message, I sent it for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is because I wanted to see what you were doing. I wanted to see how you were going to respond. I wanted to see how long it would take you to respond. I wanted to see what your response would be. And then most importantly, I needed you to respond back to me because that's what I needed in a moment, just a response back. But in sending that and needing response back, I needed a particular response back because the particular response back is necessary for me in satisfying my need. Did you get that part? Because that's exactly how it plays out. And the person does it so unconsciously. They do it so unconsciously. Or are they doing it unconsciously? Because it's not on their conscience. They're aware, they see what they're doing, but they're unconscious. The impact that it's having. They just see is that what's the problem? I just asked you a question. No, you didn't just ask a question. Yeah, I did. I just asked you a question. Why you didn't spell out love like you usually do? See, they don't want you to change anything. Because the moment you change, then it's devastating for them because now they're in their head even more. Ask you, okay, so why is that changing now? Like, why all of a sudden is he spelling L-U-V? Or why is he now just sending me hearts when he used to? Right? It's catastrophized. That's the difference between getting a message and saying, okay, well, that's unusual, and acting on it as being catastrophic, as being some negative meaning. I'll get a message and say, well, okay, well, hey, you okay? Yeah, well, because you usually just, okay, you're all right, just checking on you. See, there's an awareness that we should have when we see messages as well. But what this article is speaking of, in terms of emotionally dependent people, it becomes catastrophic. It becomes catastrophic. And that's what you have to look at. And you can see catastrophic because it plays itself out in the dialogue when you're talking about that particular message that was sent. Yeah. People are in certain places in their lives, and whatever place that they're in within themselves will determine the magnitude of catastrophic thinking. For instance, age. Like I said earlier in the show, I'm closer to 60 now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. September 29th, I turned 59. So that means I'm on my way to 60. God willing, I'll see 60. Yeah, God willing, I'll see 60. So there are some things in my life that I'm just not, I just don't have the capacity for it anymore. Right? And I say the capacity because there are things when you get to this age, by the time you get to this age, you should have increased wisdom. And you should be purging yourself. You should have purged yourself of many things. Of many things. Excuse me. There are also things that happen to people medically that becomes concerning. That plays out in many ways in the relationship. There are people who have job changes, who have geographical changes, who go to college, who have upward mobility and move into executive positions. Things change for people. Things change for people. For the emotionally dependent person, nothing changes, even with those shifts that I just talked about. And in many cases, it even increases. It becomes so intense for the emotionally dependent person that they begin to drive themselves insane and don't even see it. They begin to turn into a whole different person. A whole different person. They're angry all the time. They're frustrated all the time. They're irritated all the time. And they project those things upon their partner. So one of the things in this article about that emotionally dependent person, I'm going to read it here. Number one, when they're in a bad mood, you assume you have something to do with it. A person who is emotionally dependent upon that relationship, that's exactly what they do. That's exactly what they do. You're not smiling. They think they have something to do with it. They think it's something that they did. Because remember, in their mind, it's always catastrophic. It's always the fear of losing you. And again, not to be confused with love. Emotional dependency, right, is not about love. It mimics many other facets of love, but it is not about love. So no matter what you say, no matter how you do it, no matter what it is, this person will always interpret things as being contributed to them. And it has nothing to do, well, let me change that. It has very little to do with self-esteem. It has more to do, now, I'm not telling you that self-esteem is not one of the critical elements, one of the cousins of this behavior. What I'm saying to you is an emotionally dependent person, right? At that point, when they're acting out because of their emotional dependence upon you. Their self-esteem is what caused this overall, but it's there now. It's in their core. And it becomes that negative pattern of behavior. Therefore, it is now the norm for them to be that way. It's the norm for them to be that way. They're not going to be any other way because they are emotionally dependent upon you. So what's wrong with you? What do you mean what's wrong with you? Well, you act like you got an attitude or something. Why? How am I doing that? And again, here you are defending something that you're not doing. But this person who is emotionally dependent, that's what they do. No, I'm good. Because they have to be reassured that you ain't thinking about leaving them. That you ain't thinking about parting ways from this relationship. That they're not doing anything harmful. Don't see the harm in what they're doing right now, but they want to make sure that they didn't do something that caused you to feel that way. Because if you feel that way towards them, that means it's a good chance that you're going to leave. And an emotionally dependent person doesn't want you to leave. And again, an emotionally dependent person's behavior mimics love. It looks like love from the other side, right? You think it's caringness. You think it's a little over the top sometimes. But you have to understand that this person is severely damaged, severely traumatized from past experiences. They don't want to let go. If you leave them, they'll die. And some physically die, some emotionally die. They will drive you crazy because they need ongoing affirmation, confirmation from you. And it'll drain you, wipe you right out. And you read from the article. It says, when you are emotionally dependent on your partner, your mood, that's happiness, sadness, loneliness, anxiety, is mostly contingent upon your partner's mood and upon your interpretation of what you believe your partner's mood is. Yeah, did you get that? Let me read it for you again. When you are emotionally dependent, I want you to hear this because it may be you or may be your partner. When you are emotionally dependent on your partner, your mood, happiness, loneliness, sadness, anxiety, depression, joy, all of that is mostly contingent upon your partner's mood. Excuse me. And upon your interpretation of what you believe your partner's mood is. So it's not fact. It's whatever you create in your mind. So an emotionally dependent person who is dealing with some medical conditions, who is dealing with age, who is dealing with some other things happening in their life, right? That's like a stacked deck. Yeah. It's like a stacked deck. It gets worse. Because no matter what it is you do, you're going to always find yourself defending nothing. Because they turn everything into something. Things that don't matter. The emotionally dependent person creates something within themselves. And they create an environment of anxiety for their partner. Because the partner always feels like oh, you got to always be smiling. Hey, good morning, baby. How are you? Because if you don't come down like that, and you come down like, what's up? What's wrong? What's wrong? What? What did I do? What's the matter with you? I'm tired. Oh, but you usually, and I'm tired. I'm just in one of those spaces today. It's okay if I feel a little down. No, you can't feel down. That's what they're telling you. Because you can't. And you begin to feel that way. Like I can't never show no emotions to this person because when I show them, emotions other than happy and joy, even that becomes an issue because what you so happy about? Huh? Why are you so happy? Because I got another day above ground. Well, I got to explain why I'm happy. To an emotionally dependent person, that's necessary. It's necessary. Everything depends on your mood for that other person. Everything. Everything changes in the environment. If that emotionally dependent person does not see joy from you, and when they see joy, it can be interpreted as being wrong. Especially if you've been out for a few hours and you come back into the crib and you still buzzing from the outing with your family or whatever, and they want to know why you're so happy because it's another thing he begins to talk about here in this article. Your partner, number 2, is the center of your world. If your partner has become the major focus in your life, then you may be emotionally dependent on them. Someone who is not emotionally dependent will feel comfortable having hobbies and activities outside of the relationship. However, a person who is dependent has one true interest in life, and that is their partner. There's nothing wrong with making your relationship a priority, but your partner's happiness shouldn't be the focus of your entire life. There should be balance. And that's what I was saying. Like, I'm a person, I do a lot. I'm always doing projects. I'll do events. I'm working on a book. I'm working on films. I'm working on a product line. I go to work. I exercise. I paint. I draw. I'm involved in hobbies and activities, right? Outside of the relationship. Because I should be. Because that's part of my wholeness. But when you have people who are not involved in any kind of activities, they sit back and they watch you and they hound you. How long you gonna be? But when you coming back? When are you going to take a break from that? They sit and they watch the clock when you go out somewhere. And as soon as you come back in, they got this half-ass mindset of like, oh, you have fun? And they may not say it with any kind of, snarl like that. Anything. They might just say, you have fun. But in their mind, it's like, well, you had fun without me. Oh, you have a better time with them. You don't like being with me. That's why I've always heard, and I've learned to believe that career people should be with career people, right? I'm a career person. I don't just have a job. I'm a career person. And if you can't accept the fact that I'm a career person, that I am devoted and committed to what it is that I do, then it ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. This is about my joy, my happiness. But people who are emotionally dependent want you to be the center of their world. They don't never want to do nothing. Right? They don't want to be involved in any kind of activities, anything. They might go, to a girls' night out or a boys' day out or something every now and then. But most of the time, they want you to be there with them. And a lot of times you have relationships where they don't want to go out anywhere and they want you to always be in the house. And they want that because when you go out and you be around other people, that means other people become a focus of your attention, and they need to be the ones who are center of attention. Therefore, when you indulge in conversation, they can, yo, babe, check this out, babe, look. They want you to occupy, right? They want you to occupy their space. They don't want it. They want people to be around you. Yeah, well, we went together. What you complaining about? I'm with you. What you mean? Yeah, but I couldn't even talk to anybody else. So what you mean? You talk to other people. The relationship, it just goes on and on and on because they're emotionally dependent upon you. They're emotionally dependent upon you. Babe, get me a drink. Babe, can you get me something to eat? Babe. That's what they'll do. Me, I get it on my own. I got it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, but if she say, yo, I'm gonna get you some food, thank you. I'm good. If you go ahead, finish talking, I'll get you some food. I'm good. Don't worry about it. Like, have fun, mingle, talk. I'm cool. That don't make sense. Well, it don't make sense to me. But to a person who is emotionally dependent, it makes a lot of sense, man. It makes a lot of sense. See, part of the problem, one of the parts of the problem in relationships is that we don't understand ourselves. So when somebody asks us about these kind of behaviors, we really don't know how to respond to them. Therefore, we'll react to them, and the reaction is typically negative. Then the other person draws back and stops eventually asking and begins to internalize that behavior. Now, the relationship is not healthy because we can't talk. I can't talk to you about this. I can't express things to you because you don't see this behavior. You don't think you're emotionally dependent. Number 3, you get jealous when they spend time with other people. I just said that. Just got finished talking about that, right? If you're emotionally dependent on your partner, you might feel jealous when they want to hang around other people. Even the most secure people feel jealousy from time to time. But if it's a constant thing, and this is what we're talking about, constant, that can signal a problem. Emotionally dependent partners feeling jealous happens because they don't feel fully safe and secure when their partner isn't spending time with them. Just got finished talking about that. Right? And you'll have that. You'll have that happen often. So it ain't always about the fact that he don't like your girlfriends or she don't like the dudes you be riding with. It ain't always about that. But an emotionally dependent person who's not willing to confront that aspect of self will use that as an excuse. It's just like that, like controlling behavior. There are so many controlling people in relationships. It's the same thing happens. And this is what happens when you have somebody who's emotionally dependent, the behavior becomes controlling. Well, why are you wearing that there? It's just you and the guys. Why are you getting all, why don't you just throw on some jeans and a t-shirt like you do when you go with me? They turn something, it's, remember, catastrophic. They turn something, well, they turn nothing into something. That's what they do, right? Why is it what I'm wearing at this, you know? Now I can see if I was, you know, dressing, you know, in a manner that I'm going to an environment and I'm looking like, you know, provocative and stuff, seductive and stuff, like, you know, well, why are you wearing that? You know, you got 3 buttons unbuttoned and all that. Where you really going? You usually have 2 buttons unbuttoned with me. Or you usually wear a tie when you go out with me. But now you ain't got no tie on. What's up with that? You know, all those kind of things begin to happen because they have the need to control the circumstance, and that's what actually happens with emotionally dependent people, right? Number 4, you become anxious when you're apart. Yeah. If you don't feel comfortable with the status of your relationship when your partner needs space, that may be a sign you're emotionally dependent. Spending time alone is a regular part of any relationship. In a healthy relationship, you should feel satisfied or content, even when the two of you are apart. When you're emotionally dependent on your partner, however, it's hard to feel satisfied unless your partner is with you. Right? Think about it. See, I want you to not only look at you, I want you to look at your partner too. Right? Because that relationship is going to go back and forth for a long time, and it's not going to change. That's part of that individual. It is part of that individual. Okay? So listen, we at the hour. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. I don't know what happened. All right. Well, it looked like something happened. So if you were following the show on Instagram, it just cut off. But again, thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to be back. I'll see you next 2 weeks from now. Right? For Daddy's Right Here Live, because the show is every 2 weeks. Right? But I also want you to go to my Sabir Aleem educational station on YouTube right now. Because today is the last day you'll be able to see my film, Why Are You My Ex 2, free online. It will be offline tonight at 9 o'clock. After that, I will be doing screenings at different places. I'll be submitting to film festivals. I'll actually be doing little pop-up things at different events with the table to sell copies of the DVDs. And yes, I will autograph them for you. I'm still working on the book, so I'm hoping to have the book done about 8 months and have the book out, so you'll be able to get Why Are You My Ex 2, the book and the film. And you tell me which one you find to be better. Y'all have a great day. Again, my name is Sabir Aleem. Peace.